My marriage was a real mistake. In fact, it was the worst mistake of my life. The main problem wasn't my wife. She was okay in many ways. My problem was her mother, a real dragon who hated me more than anything else and never missed an opportunity to be nasty to me. Of course, I wasn't a genuine good guy, far from it. But I wasn't a really bad guy either. Every human being has both good and bad sides. Nobody is perfect. I had never pretended to be a saint and, to tell you the truth, I have been involved in a few less than honorable matters, but I've never spent time in jail for anything. It was a very close call once, but my friend Niklas, who went to law school at the time, saved me. Niklas and I have been friends since school. He is a small guy with thick glasses, and he always preferred reading books rather than joining the rest of us in teasing the girls. When a couple of the boys in school chose him to be the victim of their mobbing, I felt sorry for him and told everybody that I would beat the crap out of anyone who dared to offend Niklas. 2 of the boys did, and I kept my word. Today, as I begin writing this story, I am 32 years old, self-employed rock driller, which means I'm drilling holes about 100 meters deep for thermal heating tubes, and I'm making good money doing it. I've been married to Lizette for almost 6 years, and we have a son who was born only 5 months after our wedding. We have a nice house, and we could be your average family. But we are not because of her mother, the dragon, who hates me so much for getting her daughter pregnant while she had a boyfriend chosen by her mother. I must say that I've lost many battles, but I hope to be the winner in the last round. The whole mess began on Midsummer Eve some 6 years ago. The Midsummer Night is the shortest night of the year, and has been celebrated as a holy night here in Scandinavia since ancient times when the Vikings ruled this land. It is a romantic night with midnight sun in the north and only a few hours of mild twilight in the south. Wild partying everywhere. At the time I was engaged to a lovely girl by the name of Lottie, and we were planning to move in together on the 1st of August, when I had been promised a 3-room apartment in exchange for the 2 rooms I currently had. But now Lottie and I had been arguing about her going to a cousin's wedding on Midsummer Eve. I wasn't invited together with her, which was a serious breach of etiquette, because engaged couples are regarded as equal to married ones, and should always be invited together. I was sure that no other engaged people were invited as singles. Lottie also understood that it was a humiliation of me due to my old reputation as a bad boy. I had never done anything wrong neither to my girlfriend nor to her cousin, whom I had never even met. Lottie agreed that I was right, but she refused to choose me for that great evening and would not stay home from the wedding. If the damn wedding had been any other weekend, I would have been glad to stay away, and even if I had been invited, I'd have done my best to find an excuse for not going. I didn't blame the cousin. It was up to her to choose her guests and skip people she didn't like. I blamed Lottie for accepting such a humiliating invitation on Midsummer, the most important day of the year. We got into arguing, and when she left my apartment in anger in the morning of Midsummer Eve, our engagement was terminated. I told her that if her damn cousin was more important than her boyfriend, then she could stay there forever, because I didn't want her back. An hour later, I regretted losing her and called her cell phone several times during the day, but it was switched off. Lottie and I were also invited to a big party at a friend's cottage. I went there alone and I had a good time as a new single. At the party, I danced several times with a rather nice girl, Lizette, who was there with her wimpy fiancé, who had problems handling the booze. I didn't know her very well at that time, but found her rather attractive. When her boyfriend had had too much to drink, I offered to help her dump him in the back seat of his car. Lizette and I went back to the party for a while, and then took a walk in the romantic twilight to a nearby lake. We went out on the small pier, sat down and began heavy necking. I think she was impressed with my old and incorrect reputation as a bad boy. Nobody can explain why. Usually, pretty women are attracted to bad boys. Obviously, it has always been this way, because there is an old saying, "It is the naughty boys that sleep with the beautiful girls." I succeeded in convincing her that she was the prettiest girl I had ever met, and she had every right in the world to love, and to be loved by, a real man during such a holy night as the Midsummer. This was exactly how I felt at that very moment. Neither of us was very drunk, and afterwards she never accused me of using any tricks to get her on her back. She was simply in love with me, and had no objections as we went to the guest room, which was booked by her and her boyfriend for the night. After a while, it was she who asked me to make real love to her. Then we fell asleep, and didn't wake up until the next morning, when her boyfriend was yelling like a lunatic when he found Lizette and me naked in bed. Lizette's boyfriend threw his engagement ring at her, which obviously meant he dumped her at once. When my own, now ex-girlfriend Lottie came back from the wedding, she rang me and told me she regretted the whole trip, and I had been right about her being the only guest invited without his or her significant other, which had made her very humiliated and spoiled the whole wedding for her. She had tried to call me several times during Midsummer Eve to ask me to forgive her, which I could see later on when I checked the incoming messages on my cell phone. She begged me to see her and talk about our situation, which I agreed to do. But then, when she called me again an hour later after she had found out about me with Lizette, she was totally mad and shouted that she was glad our engagement was history. I didn't care at first, but called her several times about 2 weeks later when I expected her to have calmed down. I received the same reply every time and was suggested to take a hike to a hot place. I even called Lizette a few times, but she refused to see me, and I had almost forgotten all about her when she rang my doorbell 2 months later. She had a worried expression on her face and wanted to talk to me. I asked her to come in. She went straight down to business. "I'm pregnant, and you are the father." Then she started crying. We talked for several hours, and she told me that I was the first and only man who ever had it with her. She intended to keep the baby and asked me if I was man enough to share the consequences of what we did. What could I say? Even I understood that two parents were the best for a child and agreed to give our relation a fair try. Lizette was a handsome, pretty, and mild-mannered girl with a reputation as a family girl. Not as cute as Lottie, but not a bad choice for a wife. We decided to get married as soon as possible. Of course, love is an important part of a marriage, and neither of us could deny that there was some kind of hot love during our holy night. Both of us believed that it would grow between us again when we had a baby. Lizette spent the night with me, and we made love. She told me that she was very happy. I had made my decision, and it was my intention to do the best of it. The next day, we went together to her parents to give them the news. It was both the first and the last time I visited her parents' home. Her mother made my visit into a real hullabaloo. Instead of trying to make the best of the circumstances, she started yelling at me, calling me a damn hooligan. She threatened to sue me and promised to punish me in every way possible. Her father was obviously a poor wimp who let the dragon spit her fire without saying a word about the matter. Not the best in-laws in town. Her parents were the second generation of owners of the family's print shop with her mother as the feared boss. At one time, their business had been the leading printer in the whole region, but was now going downhill. The European Union, with, at the time, 15 countries, as a domestic market meant hard competition with a lot of new printing capacity available for low prices for the most important customers. And new countries, such as Poland and Hungary, with good printing capacity were close to getting their membership in the EU, and were therefore already successfully doing business with the old members. Lizette's family had made good profits during the good old times, but had not invested much in the latest equipment and was losing customers, which had gotten them into red figures. I was unemployed at that time, and Lizette's mother saw her chance to get me under her control and demanded I begin working at the print shop for a lousy pay. I refused and preferred to live on my unemployment insurance, which gave me more money than what she offered. As I had unlimited spare time, I even did some well-paid extra work for a rock driller. Lizette's mother began our vendetta by complaining to the unemployment benefit funds that I had refused to accept an offered job, which was against the rules. She had nothing for that. Then she had a lawyer write a premarital settlement in which I had no rights to anything if things got bad between Lizette and me, which was her mother's goal. I had Nicholas rewrite it to be more fair, and Lizette signed without mentioning this to her mother. 2 months later, Lizette and I were married at the town hall. It was a simple ceremony with only 2 witnesses, Nicholas and Lizette's best friend. 5 months later, we had a nice baby boy. Our relationship had slowly grown into something which could be regarded as real love, and the next 2.5 years were the happiest, very happy indeed, of our marriage. A few months after our marriage, I got the opportunity to buy the rock drilling business on fair terms. The owner had joined a beginner's course in square dancing and met a lovely woman there. She was a doctor with only a temporary job at the local hospital, and when she was offered a very well-paid job, she proposed to the driller, who said yes and sold his business to me. As both the doctor and the driller signed a personal guarantee for me, I had no problems getting the bank to loan me the necessary money. Then, when our boy was 2.5 years old and we got him into daycare, the problems began to appear. Lizette started working at the print shop again, and as she was expected to be the next owner and boss, her nasty mother's influence grew. During the good times, Lizette's greedy mother had bought stocks for a large amount and trusted her broker because her stocks had increased during the time when almost everything went up. But then, when times got harder, her broker did a lousy job, which caused her heavy losses before she managed to stop it. At the same time, I received some inside information from Niklas, who was now a lawyer, about an unexpected big boom in a company, bought stocks, and made great profit on that opportunity. I could not resist the temptation to punish Lizette's mother, which was why I bragged to Lizette that thanks to a new computer analysis program, I had done a really great profit, and there was more to come. I told her to go out to our garage for a surprise. It was an almost new Toyota I had bought at a bargain price for Lizette to use as her shopping car. Of course, she told her mother, who envied me and told Lizette to find out about my next purchase. I asked Niklas to find some real junk stocks and made a very complex-looking nonsense program in Excel, which showed a very good expected profit for Mega X stocks. I'm sure Lizette had been into my laptop and told her mother, who then made a big investment just before the junk stocks began to sink like a stone. One evening, Lizette asked me, "Have you lost any money on Mega X stocks?" "No. I bought some when they were low and sold out everything when they were on top." "Good for us. Why do you ask?" "I've heard rumors that some people have lost a lot of money on them. Gambling on the stock market is always a risky business." I had won an important battle against her mother, but she suspected my bad advice were made on purpose, and therefore there was a rumor in town that she intended to increase her efforts to cause problems for me. Not much to worry about, because she had done her best the whole time. She made a bet to her friends that she was going to persuade her daughter to get me divorced and stripped of my belongings before our boy began school. Therefore, she always invited single, young sons of their business friends and acquaintances to her parties, hoping that one of them would seduce Lizette. Many of them were well-educated, well-mannered. Of course, sooner or later, one of them would get her. She had a boyfriend when I did, and why should she be different now? Especially after a long time brainwashing to dump me from her mother. Her mother probably still thought Lizette would get the most of my belongings to invest in the print shop when I dumped her after getting more humiliation than I could take. Hate, revenge, and money were strong reasons for her mother's dirty game against me. I told Lizette that I knew about the bet, and if her mother succeeded in finding a guy who will get her, she would be thrown out immediately. Lizette got mad and shouted, "What the hell do you think of me? Don't you think I know about that damn bet, and would get mad as hell if anybody tried anything? Good decision. Keep it, and we won't have any reasons to further talk about that matter." When Lizette started working full-time, our family life began to slowly sink down to new lows. I wanted us to have another child, but Lizette refused. Our life, which had been on a good, sometimes on a very good, level while she stayed at home with the kid, became only routine. At first, I didn't complain much, because Lizette worked hard to get the printing business to survive, which her mother, with her old-time manners, could not stop from losing customers. My business flowered so well that I suggested Lizette to come work for me instead of her mother, which she refused. With increasing prices for oil, a thermal heating system was a very good investment, which meant very good business for me. Though I had much to do, I did my best to help Lizette as much as possible at home. Our marriage wasn't on top, but it was still on acceptable levels for a long time during the years after she went back to work. We still had our good moments now and then. I really did my best in my efforts to persuade her to quit her now very lousy paid job and be free of her mother's bad influence. But things went in the opposite direction. Lizette began to take the kid with her and spent more weekends at her parents' summer house than at home. After a while, I had had enough, and we had our first real fight. She understood that her mother had pushed her too far and agreed to spend more time at home. But it was an empty, soon forgotten promise. Only 3 months after our serious quarrel, she was back to her bad habit again, which also meant that our social life with our friends decreased to a minimum. Of course, I wasn't more stupid than that I understood that her mother now, after several years of fruitless attempts, had finally succeeded in getting us to drift apart. Our son had told me about some Tommy kissing mom when they came home after the last weekend at her mother's place. This was not a surprise. Such things were expected to happen sooner or later, and now I knew for sure that the shit had hit the fan. I realized that our marriage was close to being history, despite all my efforts to be a good husband. Of course, I was saddened by my failure, but to my great surprise, a feeling of great relief began to grow stronger. I could look forward to a future without a nasty mother-in-law doing her best to mess up my life. During the last years, Lizette had always, to my increasing disappointment, chosen to be on her mother's side. So I didn't care if she chose her mother in her final decision too. However, I thought it was my duty to give her a last, fair chance to be a good wife again, and save the marriage if she was interested in doing that. She got her chance the following Friday. In the evening, Lizette, as usual, told me that she was sorry, but she had to go to see her mother on Saturday morning and would be back sometime on Sunday, which probably meant in the evening. I decided that it was now high time to let her make the final choice. To be honest, I didn't care very much what she did any longer, but I felt sorry for our son and decided to suggest her to change her plans for the weekend and save our marriage. So I replied, "Please don't go. You were there the last weekend. Why can't you stay at home so our family can do something together? We could invite some friends and have a barbecue. It's been a long time since we did something like that." She looked surprised and replied, "I've promised Mother to be there and help her with her visiting friends." Her visiting friends? Why are they so much more important to you than our own friends? Or do you mean one special male friend? Who is this damn Tommy who seems to spend the weekends with you? Will he be there? She got a surprised and scared look in her eyes for a second when I mentioned Tommy. Then she replied, "He is an old friend of our family's and helps Mother, and sometimes me too, to understand some AU rules. He is not my friend, so I don't know if Mother have invited him." "How old is he?" "I think he is 30. And a good-looking single guy, I presume?" "No, he is married, but his wife is on a 3-month temporary job for the United Nations. That's why he is free to help Mother on weekends." Her explanation about the help with complicated rules in the European Union sounded reasonable, but why would a man of that age want to spend the weekends with such a greedy old dragon? And what is your relation with this Tommy? You seem to prefer to spend weekends with him rather than with your husband. Once again, I noted a split second of fear in her eyes before she replied, "Strictly business, of course. What the hell do you think of me? I don't know any longer. You cheated on your boyfriend when you and I met. Who says you won't cheat again? Don't insult me. That was different. I was young and fell in love with you, and you ought to know that I still love you." "You say so, but let's make it clear where we stand today. Nowadays, you've got very strange ways of showing what you call love. Not much to brag about, indeed. Our marriage is a travesty of a real marriage. Our so-called personal life is almost non-existent. You prefer to abandon your husband and spend your weekends with this Tommy boy, who obviously is starving for some when his wife is away. But you, Lizette, is a very handsome young woman, and it can't be totally wrong to presume that it is you which is his first, probably only goal and reason to be at your damn summer house. However, you keep saying that you love me, but I can't understand how the hell you can think that I would believe such mumbo-jumbo after what you are doing to me. I'm totally fed up with your damn mother and her nasty tricks on our family, and ready to offer you fair terms for a divorce so you'll be free to do what you want with your dear Tommy boy." She had not expected any suggestion of divorce, and her face took on an ash-gray color when she shouted, "Divorce? Are you serious? You can't demand divorce because I want to see my mother. Are you mad? That is no reason for divorce." "No, it isn't, but I can't see any serious reason for you to see her from morning to evening 7 days a week, every week. If your own family still means something to you, please skip Tommy and stay home this weekend so we can talk about our problems and try to find a solution before it is too late. Please do that if you still love me as you were saying." "Of course I love you, but I've promised Mother to go and I have to go. I'm sorry that I can't stay with you, but please be patient with me, and I promise you'll be well rewarded. Have you forgotten that next Friday is Midsummer Eve, and we'll be together the whole day? And we'll spend a whole week together 24-hour a day at a summer house in July. What a mark of favor. At the end of next month, I'll get a whole week together with my lovely, beloved wife. What a gift from heaven. And may I guess that your favors to me on Midsummer Eve are caused by such circumstances as Tommy being somewhere else during the holidays? Maybe he is going to be together with his wife during the holiday and won't have time for you? Poor you. Or do you still remember that I dumped Lottie because she abandoned me on a Midsummer Eve? Now she sobbed, "You are not funny. You are pathetic. Do you think it is funny to be married to you? I must say that you have a strange way of showing your love." Okay, Lizette, I know I can't stop you from going to see that guy because he is more important to you than your family, but you have to take the kid with you because I'm going to do service on the drilling equipment tomorrow and can't take care of him at the same time. Now she was really mad and shouted, "You are accusing me of cheating, treating me as a S. Mother is right. You are a real bastard." Then she began crying loudly. I put a full stop at this point and understood that there was something going on between her and that Tommy, but didn't give a shit about it anymore. Not much was left of our marriage, probably nothing at all. However, I had made one last attempt at saving it. The only reason I hadn't dumped her at once and told her that she should stay away from our home forever was that I would get much better terms for the divorce if I caught her cheating. I couldn't see any reasons for further arguing with Lizette and felt that it would be an advantage to stay away from home for an hour or two. I felt I needed a large whiskey, and as I never liked drinking alone, I went to my favorite pub, which had to be one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. After a dram at the bar, I noted that Mona, a friend of my ex-girlfriend Lottie's, was sitting in a booth with her husband. I went over to them and asked her if she knew how life was going for Lottie nowadays.